And we are live. What's good, people? It's your man DL Saint. Yeah, we're gonna start a little bit early, couple minutes early, but it's just because I'm so excited. Y'all know how I get down. I pop up at random times, and I had to jump on today right now because I have a real good friend of mine, someone I consider my political mentor. He's one of the people that helped drive me uh, through my political journey, especially when I was in California. Um, I learned so much from this brother, and he's gone on to do some great things, and he's working towards even more greatness right now in the political world out there in California. So without further ado, I want to bring to you guys my friend Al Austin the second. What's good, brother? How you feeling?
I'm doing great, Don. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. I'm trying to learn this whole YouTube space, man, and our people will jump on as we get going, and then the replay is really going to be where people gonna hear and get to know you. But man, oh man, I'm just so glad you were willing to do this, man. Help a brother out, man. As always, it's good to see you, man. And I hear the family's doing good, man. Like let's before we get into the whole political stuff, man. Let's start where it always should start, man. The family. You are a brother who is happily married, father of two strong young men. Bro, can we talk about that a little bit? Or you like to keep that out of the way?
Oh man, sure. I'd love to. That's part of who I am. Yeah, my guys are doing really well. Super proud of them. Here in Miami with my oldest son Alex, who is a college football player at Oregon State. Um, my youngest son is he'll be going into his senior year in high school and uh, has a lot of promise ahead of him. He just recently committed to play football at Louisiana State University (LSU) as a defensive
Wow.
back. So
Wow. Division 1 and all that. That's what's
yeah,
up.
yeah, we made it happen twice. We're very proud of him.
And I'm proud of you, man. Like, you know what I mean? That's only reason I bring this up is because I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I'm tired of the trope that men are no good, especially black men. Black men are no good. And I'm looking around in my circles and I'm surrounded by amazing black men. So when I hear the trope, I'm like, bro, what is everybody talking about? Maybe that was the case a few generations ago, but I don't think that's the case now, man. Any thoughts on that?
I think I have a similar experience. Most of the people in my circle, individuals who I know, are performing at a pretty high level, that are taking care of their families, but also thriving. And I think maybe it's who we choose to surround ourselves around. In many respects.
That's a good point. That's a good point, man. And we'll table it there for now because I know there's another episode in there at some point, but we got other things to talk about, bro. We got more important things to get at. So I'm gonna take this opportunity for you to tell everyone your story, man. Who you are. Start from the beginning, bro. Don't leave nothing out. You know what I mean?
Oh wow! Now, how much time do we have
As
today?
much time as you need. But no, I know you're a busy man and I know you're in between stuff, but if you could give us the Cliff Notes version because um where you started and where you are now and those points I think are very, very important as we get into your story and why you're doing your things because we can't have an origin story without hearing the origin. And then we have Miss AKA lady in the house. What's good? Thanks for joining us, love. Uh this is my buddy Al Austin. You just caught us at the top of the show and he's about to give us his origin story. He's a dad, a father, a husband, father, dad, politician, hardworking brother, union guy. We'll get into that in a little bit. But let's hear the origin story there, Al, if you don't mind.
Well, like you, Don, we come from similar backgrounds. You from Cleveland, I'm from Detroit. Um, I grew up in a middle class household. You know, through on a auto worker's income. Right, my father worked at Chrysler. Like most of my relatives, worked in the auto industry in Detroit when I was a kid, and he got a great opportunity to move to California. He got headhunted by a company, aerospace company, McDonnell Douglas. And so when I was about 12 years old, we moved our family, my brother, my sister, um, my mom, our family moved west to Southern California, landed in Long Beach, California. And the rest is pretty much history. Went to high school, junior high school in Southern California. So most of my years have been spent in the Southern California area. I live in Long Beach, California. Uh, Worked in the aerospace industry right out of high school. Did the Midwest thing, and we got a lot of great experience. Joined my union, got involved, uh, went to community college, got involved in my community, and you know, left the aerospace industry, went to work for the state legislature for a little while. How much time you have?
Yeah, he said he would go forever, but I mean, I wanted to get those in there, and I know you said Cleveland, but you misspoke at Cincinnati. But
Oh
we,
yes.
yeah, but it's come on, man, it's all gravy. But we got Brother Johnson in the house, who's also from Jason Johnson in the house, man. It's like, let's go D Town. This young brother's from Detroit. You know what I mean? He's still
Okay.
out in Detroit. So, man, that's fascinating that you came from the Midwest, coming from basically the hood, and you go to Long Beach. How did you manage to stay away from the street life, bro?
Well, I was fortunate that I started working at a young age. So and I can't say that in the '80s, growing up, you had there was that influence. It was close, and everybody was impacted in some way. So I would just say that for me, it was great having great parents. Having grandparents, were always praying for me. My grandmothers, folks who I would never wanted to break their hearts, right? And
Right.
so, I was fortunate enough, to never get too caught up. Let's just say that I
Yeah, let's
was,
say
I
too
was
caught up. And that's a good point, bro, because you can't avoid it. Like, and people, I think
right,
a lot of folks out there don't realize how difficult it is um to be on the straight and narrow in the hood. Because it's not that you're looking for problems, the problems might find you.
right.
So, and you came up during probably the worst time um to come up in that era, man. I mean, because bro, I mean that when you walking down the street and people come up to you like, where you from? That's a real thing,
You
right?
had to you had to be from something. You had to claim something. In many respects. I mean, fortunately, like I said, we never got too caught up. I lived in the I would say was considered the suburbs when I moved to California. So I wasn't necessarily in the concrete jungle of LA and Compton, but those influences were still very real in the communities that I grew up in, right? And went to high school in. And so, yeah, we never got too caught up. Always had a job, right? Was working from the time I was 15 years old, making my own kind of money and doing for myself. I was pretty independent as a teenager, right? And I think that is what really kind of helped me stay out of trouble, but also focused on things that were important. So I was working, going to school part time, working full time, and little by little, I've been able to sustain.
And that's what and sustain you have done, but like you have done some great things, bro. Like, and it's just I only bring that up because folks who aren't from that world don't understand how difficult it can be to come out of that unscathed, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because coming out of Cincinnati, I worked too. I've worked since I was 14 years old, but
Right.
unlike you, I delved in the streets a little bit, and I got lucky. I didn't get caught doing whatever it was we were doing. I just got lucky. But I understand how difficult it is. When I talk to my counterparts in different bubbles and these conversations come up, I'm like, well, all you had to do is be good and do this and do right and eat your Wheaties and everything would be okay. It was like, bro, that's not a thing. You know what I mean? When you're faced with that, that's not a thing.
Well, I did have my share of trouble. Don't get me wrong.
I know you did.
You don't need to go into the details there, but you know, you live and learn and hopefully grow. And that's something that my father, may rest in peace, was no longer with us. He kind of emphasized. My mother, like I said, kept me prayed up, and she was she watched closely, make sure things didn't get out of hand, and I appreciate them for giving me that guidance and love, throughout the many years
Absolutely.
that I had them. So,
Absolutely. So now let's get into the nitty gritty, man. Because
it's-
when and how did you become interested in politics, man?
so I was influenced with public service politics from a very young age. As far back as I can remember, I can remember, kind of strategy sessions with cigars and whatnot around my grandfather's dining room table. His brother was a well-known elected leader in Detroit. My grandfather was a social worker who was a public administrator who worked for the county of Los Angeles. I mean, county of Wayne County in Detroit. So uh, these individuals were giants of their time. Great influencers, but true public servants. Uh, and they were early influences. I watched baseball games, football games, Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, they were my family, so uh, I got to see and hear a lot. Got to, politicians it wasn't a big deal. They were just who my family was, and their associates. And so, true story, Rosa Parks lived right across the street from my grandfather in Detroit, right on
Wow, I did not
Virginia
know
Park.
that.
Yeah, not too far away from uh, Motown, Northwestern High School, or Northwestern. Yeah, that's where my father went to school. So yeah, it was great to grow up in Detroit. I got to see a lot of influences early on, but also gain an influence or gain an interest in public service. I knew at some point that this is something that I wanted to do, and it was always in the back of my mind, no matter what age and what stage of life I was going through. This was a possibility for me, and I had my great aunt who's still alive. She's 108 years old.
Oh
I,
wow.
Ida Austin, yeah. She was always a big influence and always kind of pushing me to go in that direction. My grandmothers were as well, and so um, that was uh, that was a real motivation to kind of also stay out of trouble too. Right? Don't get too caught up here, right?
Yeah,
Because
don't get too caught up. And Miss AKA lady wants to know, how was it growing up so close to Motown? That's pretty cool.
uh, you know, Motown was in full stream when I was a kid. I think the Motown had a greater influence on my parents in Detroit. Like most cities, the community, the black community, the degrees of separation are not that great, right? And so it was Stevie Wonder grew up across the alley from my father. My mother lived in the Brewster projects with Diana Ross and her sisters, and so there was familiarity with Motown from these are peers, and so one step removed, I was in that generation.
Wow, bro, that's what's up. I didn't even all these years I've known you, man. I never knew that. That's crazy. Um, so let me ask you, let me ask you this, brother. Why is it important for people to get involved in the process? And by the process, I mean the political process here in America.
Oh wow, the process. Most people aren't interested in the details and the nuts and bolts of how government works and how decisions really impact their lives. And most people have one opportunity to get involved, and that's voting. Right? That's a basic opportunity, but I think for our country, for our states, for our cities to work better, to better serve the people have to engage at a much greater level. Voting is just that's just a bare minimum. It should be the bare minimum in terms of involvement and expectation. We should be participating and engaging with your elected leaders on a regular basis on the issues that you care about that are most important. And oftentimes people are kind of pushed. The issues are pushed on them We need to engage from a standpoint that we're getting our marching orders from the people, right? You know, this administration comes in and says, you know, national security is the number one priority for the country. Is that what the people really want? Healthcare. Do think there are a lot of people that see the value of healthcare, and I'm a big proponent of universal healthcare and healthcare for all. I think that could really change the dynamics for the workforce, but for families, and really allow for a better peace of mind. If everybody knew that they were going to have a basic standard or quality standard of healthcare, right? And I'm talking about at every level. And mental health is something that I think that is a major challenge facing our state, but I think our country at this point. When you see, the mass shootings going on, uh, and so much just things that you can't even, you're scratching your head and just trying to figure out, like, what brings somebody to do this, right? Healthcare is super important, and taking care of our residents, our citizens of this great country should be a priority, and not just the people, but you know those who empower these individuals need to be addressing health. I think we'd be much better off if everybody focused a little bit more on that, right? Their full health, mind, body, spirit. We would be much better off as a country.
That's a good point, man. So, all right, let's because I had some notes, but now it's time to get into it. I guess because I know you don't have a whole lot of time. So, with healthcare in particular, why is it? And I'm talking at a national level. Why is it we don't have a version of universal healthcare um, in this country? Do you have? What are your thoughts on that, brother?
Well, I think we made a huge step forward with the Affordable Care Act. I mean, let's just it was a great step forward, and many states now have the authority to set up healthcare models that are able to provide greater coverage to the people across this country. Not every state has embraced it the way they should. Um, I know in California, I think we're doing better than most, and it's more of a commitment, but we still don't have a perfect system, right? We don't have 100% coverage. Um, I think healthcare should be a right, and I'm going to work every day to make that a reality. Um,
Okay,
Hopefully, very soon.
okay, so yes, but you're currently you currently sit on the Long Beach City Council. Is that correct? Is your term still, or is your term up?
Oh no, I am a city council member in Long Beach still.
So when you got elected into that office, and I remember your campaign, man. Like I say, your campaigns are hard fought. I'm proud to say I was able to help in small ways here and there, but I was always willing to come through because I respect you so much, brother. Like we are true. Like when I call you brother, I mean it. You know what I mean? Like yeah, I'm
For
down,
sure,
bro.
for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
down. But what were you able to do once you got that position? Once you got into office, what were you able to do, and what things did you see that kind of you did not know really existed until you got inside?
Well, yeah, we've been able to do a lot. I've been on the city council in Long Beach for 10 years now. We have,
10 years.
when I started in 2012, we were in my office downtown was in a whole different building, positioned differently in the city. We have reconstructed our whole civic center, built you know, two new libraries in our city, a new main library, but also a library in North Long Beach. We have invested, hundreds, millions of dollars in the infrastructure improvements throughout the city. We've built capacity for those who we're not doing as well as we'd like them to see. Those who are living on our streets, we're building homeless shelters and bridge housing. Still have a lot of work to do there in that area. But I've also been able to facilitate the development of almost 40 acres of new park space in my district. We have 9 council districts in the city. We've got almost 40 acres of urban park space in the North Long Beach area where I represent. I'm very, very happy and proud of that work because we've been able to name a few parks and um, create more green space. California density is a challenge, particularly in LA County. And I think we're really proud of the work that we're doing in the housing space. We've actually built for sale housing, the uh, first for sale housing in the city of Long Beach in the last 25 years. I was actually able to build in my community. And so we're moving forward, but we still have a lot of work to do. Our housing goals, we're falling. Um, we're behind right now, but we need to pick things up in terms of planning and just land use issues. But yeah, we've been able to do a lot with the short time that we've been on the city council. 10 years doesn't seem like a long time, but I've seen a lot.
Man, it went by fast. And do you guys have term limits?
Yes, we have. We started out with 4-year terms, and the voters in the city of Long Beach passed a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago now, a measure to extend term limits to 3 terms for city council members. I was the first council member to, run and be reelected to a third term in many,
Ooh,
many years.
great. Hey, look at you, man. Becoming getting into the history books.
Little bit. We just wanted to continue the work. We've been able to do a lot of good work. My team and I, my residents in my community, long-term visions, trying to make these economic development models work. We've got a couple of really, really promising developments coming into North Long Beach, and so the motivation to run was really to finish the good work. I think we've been able to do some of that over the last 2 years, and an opportunity popped up recently that I had to take a look at, and you know after many discussions with neighbors, residents, supporters, I threw my name in the hat to run for the state assembly in California in the 69th Assembly District. And that we had a primary on June the 7th, just a few days ago. And it looks like we'll be in a runoff for the general elections. We're still waiting on returns to come in, but right now things look pretty favorable for us to be in a runoff election in November.
Well, congratulations on that, brother. I know that's no easy task. I do want at some point today get into the technical part of actually running for office, but I can't let you off. And I learned this from you, man. Like I learned this from watching you. You've never been afraid of the tough questions, Al, as long as I've known you. And I was just going through the process of remember New Frontiers, Young Dems, and and doing all that, and going to the going to the conferences. So let me give you a tough question, bro. What didn't you get done in your 10 years on the council in Long Beach that you kind of regret a little bit?
No, you know what? I don't have any regrets. That's a great question. I think if anything, I wish we would have been able to do more. We have been successful in improving, business and small businesses and economic development in the community, creating jobs, improving quality of life, in investing in infrastructure and changing neighborhoods, creating more park space. I've been able to do that, and I'm proud of that work. But also improving how government works. I was on the. It was my idea to create a citizens redistricting commission. It was my idea to move forward with ethics reform and create an ethics commission for our city, so that our city is more responsive and that there's public trust in the work that we do as public officials. We've been able to do a lot over the last 10 years, but with government, with local government, with state government, with federal government, it's fluid, right? So you can come into office with specific goals, right? I'm going to achieve X, Y, and Z, and I think I've been able to do 85, 90% of what I sought to do in 2012. But there's a continuum, right? Oh, you know what? I fixed sidewalks, and sidewalks weren't a problem for 5 years. Guess what? Those trees are now growing, and those roots are growing, and so sidewalks are constant. They need to be repaired every, you know, 10 years. Streets need to be redone every 10 years. But then the issues change as well because when I started 10 years ago, my very first vote was to create a home. I'm sorry, to create a foreclosure registry because we had a foreclosure crisis at that time, right?
Okay. Because that was the
Today,
housing. That was the housing bubble
housing,
we're talking about.
yeah,
Okay.
housing bubble. We had foreclosures, and people were squatting in vacant homes in neighborhoods and communities, and it was a thing. And so we said, okay, we're going to hold the banks accountable, right? Work with the banks to create a registry so that we know where all the foreclosures are in our city, so that we can better manage these situations. That issue alone has gone 180 degrees because today you can't find many vacancies in the housing market in Long Beach, right? So just I've been able to see a contrast. Homelessness has always existed, right? 10 years ago compares nothing to what we are facing today, right? We could literally, in our state, fill 3 football stadiums, you know, with people who are living on the streets today, right? And so that is a motivation. These are new challenges uh, from housing, homelessness, healthcare, the needs of our communities, uh, policing. These issues have shifted a lot during the time that I've been an elected official, and the experience is pretty it's a pretty amazing time to be an elected official in Southern California. I'll just say
I
that.
I
And
see that.
obviously, COVID. Think about just the how we had to deal with a pandemic that there was really no playbook to deal with. We
Right.
had to figure it out and be make sound decisions that we thought were in the best interest of our constituents. The idea was to save lives.
Right. Okay. So, wow, bro. And what I haven't heard from you thus far, and we've been talking almost 30 minutes, and what I haven't heard from you a lot, just hanging out, you don't like to blame people for things. Am I correct in stating that? Like you like to come with solutions when you're faced with a problem.
Well, one of my union presidents back in the day, um, when I was a UAW member, he had this phrase he used to say, and it stayed with me. It's called "There's no future in the past," really. And I can't I can't blame the person that held office before me, or 10 years before me, or 20 years before me about the problems today. I can go back and assess and determine, okay, what caused this, certainly, but passing blame is that's a waste of time in many respects if you are serious about doing the work of the people and governing today. You have to embrace the challenges and utilize the resources you have and move forward, hopefully in a collaborative fashion with other elected officials, but obviously most importantly with the people, with the community.
Man, I gotta give you respect on that, bro. Because in politics, it's so easy to point across the aisle. It's so easy to point to the other side and say, "Well, we're here because of them." And Jay Bones, welcome, brother. Thanks for popping in here. We're just talking a little politics over here with the G, a big G in the political world. He hates to hear me say these things because he's so modest. But yo, bro, Al Austin's the man out there in California, and we're gonna ask towards the end of this. We're gonna ask for y'all help to get him into the state assembly. But for now, you brought up COVID. Now, man, I ain't gonna lie to you. One of the main reasons I was happy to get out of California was with the handling of of
Hmm.
of that pandemic. So, what are your thoughts on that, bro?
And I think we're smarter today than we were 2 years ago. Uh, let's just look at COVID for what it was. There were executive orders that came from Sacramento that put local governments in positions where we had to follow through. I mean, you didn't find too many health departments, and I think it's really important to understand how these decisions are made and who has the power to make these decisions, right? The uh, once the governor declared an executive order, right, emergency orders, right, uh, there were guidelines, and he was developing those decisions based on, or making those decisions based on a health expert, right? And so during a pandemic, the our health professionals, their importance, but also their decision making ability is elevated, um, beyond legislative, and even executive in many respects, right? So, your mayors are going to their health experts, right, or their county health officials to get the go ahead. What are we doing? Uh, and then so what we saw was full compliance for, maybe the first 30, 60 days. Okay, everybody understood this is, and then we saw numbers start going down. Everybody was watching a dashboard every single day in terms of, how many, where are the infection rates, what are the hospitalization rates, what are the fatality, the death rates. And when those numbers started stabilizing, people started questioning, and then, it became a political ideology, and it became a national debate. Um, and the simple thing, like simple acts like masking, right? Like, okay, if everybody wears a mask, we'll be able to contain. Well, there's no proof or facts to necessarily say that this is what it is. But listen, compliance to improve the, or to make everybody else safe, made sense, right? Okay, I'll wear a mask. I'll make that sacrifice if it's going to me um, keeping somebody else safe, but our population as a whole being safer in this transmittal of this this virus is mitigated and maintained. I think people did, for the most part, did the right thing, and were smart about it, and I'm glad that we were able to roll out a vaccine. We were I think among the best in the nation in Long Beach in terms of, operations, and just being able to vaccinate thousands of people, in our city, to make our community safer. We we were able to I think, avoid a lot of unfortunate outcomes, as a result of that.
Yeah, because I mean that was a tough one, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. As that happened, I remember how that went down, and as that happened, it's I look at it from a military standpoint. Okay, we got a threat. We got to deal with the threat. So you go with what you know, and you move forward accordingly. We had no vaccine. We had no real way of fighting this thing other than saying, okay, we're just gonna, we're gonna hunker down or whatever. We're gonna wear a mask. We're gonna do these things. All that made sense. Once the vaccine came out, I understood the hesitance of some folks who didn't want to do it because it seemed that the thing just came from out of nowhere. There were so many questions, and I don't want to get into that too much, but I do want to say this: I had no problem getting vaccinated. I had no problem getting my daughter vaccinated. I had no problem at all. There was people out there on the other side, especially here in Florida. I don't want to get the jab, whatever, whatever. My thing is this: I'm a soldier. I have so many experimental serums poked into me, prior to going to war. I'm not worried about this one. I'm not worried about that. I got anthrax floating around in me. I got some stuff the army to this day say that they didn't give me, but I know they did. So I'm not worried about it. But I can understand how people will be afraid, to take this vaccination, to take this vaccine that seemed to come from out of nowhere. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people, we're just not, we don't place value in education. I did research on my own, and I was able through different means to see what was going on. I understood how the scientists could move so fast to come up with this vaccine because they've been studying COVID for a very long time. This isn't new to them. So I understood that, but it never got out. But Miss Globe Girl has a question for you here. And thank you for joining, love. I appreciate your support. She's like, was the country's COVID response too politicized?
You know, like I said, we were watching dashboards every year, looking at COVID for at least 18 months, right? And yes, it was we were watching what was going on around the world, globally, at home, and you know, at some point, it was really it was amazing to see, the level of deference and respect for public health officials, right? That oftentimes, there was politics, policy, somewhere public health fell down in there. Public health was prioritized. People kind of understood and was actually listening to public health experts. Um, Whether or not they knew exactly what they were dealing with, they knew more than most, right? They're experts who study this and have studied this their entire lives, and so there's a level of credibility and trust that we have to like going to the doctor. Oftentimes, the doctor, this is what they do. Health experts, this is what they do. We have to listen to them. As policymakers, as political leaders. And so there was I gave that. I had no problem giving that. Obviously, we're reading, we're asking questions, we're asking critical questions when we're meeting with our city manager, getting briefings, 3-4 days a week during this pandemic. We were all hands on in Long Beach, and we understood that it was very important for us to be nimble and adaptable to the crisis that we were dealing with. And so, yes, and library employees were turned over to the health department. Parks and Recs employees were now working in concert with the health department, and the whole city's focus was, hey, let's do what we can to make sure that people are accommodated during this time. And often at times that led to food drives and giveaways with nonprofit organizations and communities, and giant food banks throughout our city to ensure that families were being fed. That meant us changing policy to help people deal with the economic calamity that we were dealing with at the time. And yes, we had to put moratoriums on rent evictions because it was important to keep families together. And the last thing we wanted to do is have more people on the street during the pandemic, right? And so,
Right.
not everybody was able to shelter in the same way, right? And so, those who lived in more congregate and dense living facilities or environments certainly were more exposed than those who had real estate, right?
Right.
Um, and,
Right.
and 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 so the issues of equity became something that we started looking at a lot more carefully. Like, okay, now equity is hitting us in the face when it comes to healthcare and impacts and risk. And so, yeah, we learned a lot during COVID. And the question is, was it too politicized? That's a hard one because we had to constantly adapt every day to something that an enemy, a threat that we didn't see and really couldn't contain necessarily, right? So, very good question. Was it politicized? Some tried to make it an issue. You always are going to have conspiracies and um, you know critical thought, and I think that's why our country's great. That's why we're a democracy. But also we have to, I think, have a have a reasoned mind to begin with.
Yeah. And I ain't gonna lie to you, Miss Globe Girl. You know, I say yes to that question. Was it politicized? Nationwide, absolutely it was. For better, for worse, it was. I mean, what was going on in the South was way different. What was going on out west and what was going on in the Northeast and all that. And I get it. You know, I got the vaccine, but they're like, "Oh, you need a booster." I'm not doing that. You've already introduced it to my body. I have a very good immune system. My daughter has an outstanding immune system. Our bodies are ready to fight it. And that's where I kind of got into the I don't know about that because the information coming out on the booster versus no booster, again, the information came out with the way it came out. They
Well,
presented it as they got it, and it was what it was. But I think as an individual, because we are Americans first, and we are free. So I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. And I can't say I agree with them forcing people to take the vaccine. However, I understand why they're doing it. So go
Well,
ahead. Are you
listen,
gonna say something?
our the data shows that the vaccine overall has is working, right? It our death rates are way down. Our hospitalization rates are way down. People are still getting COVID, but they're dealing with it. They're fighting through it. The worst outcomes isn't death today, and I think that is a success so
And I
far.
and I yeah,
So
and
far,
I
so
can't
good.
and I can't lie. Hey, what you just said, brother, is spot on. Brother Viking, what's good? Thanks for coming over. I see my fresh and fit folks in here. I see my Suzette Speaks folks in here. By the way, Al, you're in Miami. Suzette Speaks. I'm gonna send you a link to her page. She's
Okay.
taking a week off because she works really hard. She's an attorney in Miami. She's very political, very sharp. She has a really good show. I just want to shout out to her. I'm definitely gonna send you a link to her, man, because she might even reach out to you, man, because my show can be a little rough. Her show isn't.
We,
At
we
all.
love Miami so far. After a few days here in Miami, the rain not so much, but it's refreshing. It's
Ain't
beautiful.
nothing but a little water, bro. I wish it rained more in California.
I
Yeah, you know
do.
what I mean?
I do.
Crunk One Bear, what's good, brother? Thanks for coming through. Thanks for the love. I appreciate everybody. This is the DL saying I really want to know podcast. I'm talking to Al Austin, a Long Beach City Council member who is now running for California State Assembly. So and now as we push into the final the final turn here, bro. I want to turn it over to you here in a moment to let you give uh that your spill so much. Like tell people why it's important for you to get this spot, why you should have this spot. But before we do, what are your thoughts on UBI, Universal Basic Income?
You know, I generally favor it. I mean, we're doing some beta testing of it right now, and so far it's shown that it is helping families, and uh, we have we're using some of our Recovery Act, the dollars to help with that in our city. In terms of scale, universal basic income. I mean, what would that look like? Covering every family or every family in need. I don't know that we have the resources to realistically do that right now. But if we can target certain communities, certain areas, certain demographics to change their outcomes, improve their livability, quality of life, their overall health. I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right, that's what's up. Brother Doug's in the house was good. 1291 different adverse reactions reported by the CDC and NIH from the jab. I'm good. After the reports came out, both departments removed the reports. Luckily, I was one of the few to see the reports. And a lot of people they'll read stuff like that. They'll hear like someone like Brother Doug make that kind of comment. They're like, "Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist." No, this was an experimental drug. You had to sign waivers to get the vaccination. So, dude, again, as a military guy, I made a decision what was best for me and my family. And you know what? I'm gonna, based on the information I have, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Again, the initial vaccine. Now, as far as all these other things, now my street mind kicks in. Oh, you want me to take the booster? Oh, I need to take these shots 2 or 3 times a year now. Oh, how much y'all going? Now the government ain't
Look,
paying for it.
look,
How much does that cost?
look. Yeah,
Yeah,
but what you said 2 or 3 times a year. We also, I think, from I've worked as a labor negotiator for most of my career, and I honestly think the workforce is going to have to change. Our human resource policies may have to be revised, because I think we need to factor in the fact that we may have to deal with uh, COVID outbreaks maybe twice a year. Okay, you know every 6 months, every 8 months, you may contract COVID like the flu, right? And so, is it going to be quarantine? Are we going to require people to quarantine and stay home and mask and test? It's really a change in it's going to change the way we look at sick leave, sick
Yeah,
days.
yeah, right. And you talking for those who have it. Like again, and that segues into my next question for you. Why are unions important, brother?
Well, I mean, all the reasons we just mentioned. I mean, if you don't have a union, you don't have the ability to uh, to raise those conversations or be at the table for those conversations, to advocate for working conditions that are going to be beneficial to families, that are not going to ruin families, right? COVID, if we don't put in some sort of emergency paid sick leave at the federal level, which was very much advocated by um, unions, right? We don't, families could be ruined, right? You have to stay off work for 10 days and with no pay. What does that mean for rent? What does that mean for, you know, the bills or even putting food on the table?
Yeah, does that make you part time? You're no longer full time because you missed that cycle or whatever, that two pay cycles you were
But
down.
but then what's we've always heard that most families in this country, or a lot of families, let's just say that, um, large percentage are only a few paychecks away from being homeless, right? So when you
Yes.
have a pandemic and you have to factor in workforce issues, sick leave, paid sick leave, you have to factor in, housing situations. These are all reasons why being a labor representative, being a union rep myself, um, it made me proud. I got to tell you, 2020 and 2021 were probably the most difficult years in every sphere that I'm involved in the public policy arena as a local government official, but also as a labor representative as well, because it was just a busy time and nobody had the playbook. Everybody was working from scratch and trying to, get to a place where, you know, people were not going to be damaged.
Now, and you said that the Long Beach is currently experimenting with UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Yes, we have a pilot going on right now. I think it may impact a couple of thousand residents. I think I moved forward an issue to an item back in 2020 to look at mitigating some of the rent issues that we were having. We heard from housing providers saying that, hey, you know what, we're not collecting rent, and that's putting us in the hole. We heard from families saying, we don't have the ability to pay rent because our employment situation isn't what it was. We lost our job during the COVID pandemic, or hours were cut, or we had health impacts related to COVID. So we came up with uh, a model to use our CDBG funds initially, right, to pay the rent for 3 months for up to 2,000 families in the city, right? And so that was really a form of UBI, Universal Basic Income. And then that was adopted later, and we were able to get money through the American Recovery Act and the other version of it early on, stimulus, and we used those dollars to help even more families. And so keeping people housed was a major endeavor, but also a priority for me and my colleagues on the city council.
Yeah, man, uh, that's definitely gonna have to be another conversation because I believe that we should have some form of UBI. But when you bring this up, people are like, "Oh, you're just one of those crazy libs." It's like, "Nah, bro. Like automation is coming, right? You're gonna have to do something pretty soon. People aren't gonna be working in Walmart or CVX or Kroger's or Publix or Gelson's or wherever because machines are gonna be stocking the shelves. Pretty soon you're not gonna need humans to do these jobs. It's gonna wreak havoc on the workforce. And we got a little taste of that. We see what happens now. Like most Americans can't afford an unexpected expense of $500. Think about that. Most Americans cannot afford that. If something comes up, they're going to have to use credit, or they're going to have to borrow the money, or they're going to have to not buy food or not buy medicine or whatever. That's a serious problem. And then you look at where we are educationally. People are going to school, they're paying for all this college, and they have
Yeah.
all this debt. And now they can't afford, even with your college degrees, you can't afford. Like Al was talking about the issues with housing in Long Beach. Al, if I'm moving from Florida to Long Beach and I want to buy myself a starter home, how much money do I need?
Well, it depends on where you are. If you were in the LA County, Orange County area, you're probably gonna your starter home was gonna start anywhere from about 650 to $700,000 as a starter home today.
And what
And
kind of square footage you think we're going to be looking at?
well, I've seen that kind of money go toward housing with 1,000 square feet or less, depending on the neighborhood, right?
So, yeah. And people, y'all hear that? And Al's being modest, bro. Like if you're trying to go to LA, the LA area, Orange County area, you want to be in Long Beach or whatever, you want to be in the hood, you want to move to South Central, Compton, Watts, and all that, you're gonna need $500,000-$600,000 to get you a starter house in the hood. In the hood. If you lucky, it'll come with the police tape.
Come on.
I'm joking here, but housing is very expensive in Southern California. So when someone like me, I'm here in Florida, and I hear people in Central Florida talk about how expensive it is, I laugh. Like it's all relative, right, to what's going on where you are. The numbers that we're spending here in Central Florida aren't the same as the numbers you're gonna spend in Cincinnati, Ohio, or Detroit, you name it. So, but just to give y'all an idea and housing ain't going down. It's not going down at all. So we had a couple of chats that came in.
We
I
have to
wanted to just
build more
kind of,
housing, though. I think it's
yes.
extremely important. That'll stabilize the cost if we're able to build more housing throughout, obviously our region in Southern California, but throughout the state.
And the problem with that is builders can't make a profit on an entry level home, a single, like a entry level 2-3 bedroom ranch. Builders can't make a profit on that, so they're not building them. And the existing single family homes are being bought up by private equity. At least it was being bought up by private equity in Wall Street and wealthy folks to rent out to people. Now, all that might change here in the next 18 months or so with what's going on with interest rates. But the problem is we all know we need more housing, but the builders aren't going to build them. And it costs too much to build them with the problems with the supply chain and all that. And I'm sorry, Al, you were going to say something?
No, I think you're right on. It's a challenge that I think most people don't see. Um, Building sounds like a easy solution. It's easy to say we need to build 25,000 um, new rooms or housing in a city. That's a great goal to have, but actually executing that is difficult. And I've actually been through the concept to actual building of homes in as a city council member, and that process on a fast track is about 4.5 5 years.
Four and
Right,
a half on a fast track
on the fast track.
with
So
nothing
we
going
need the
wrong.
housing today, we need it now. So when it comes to the issue of homelessness, and we need to be creative, we need to think out of the box. Traditional housing solutions may not be the answer. We need to look at alternatives, and then the actual building of homes. We need to cut as much red tape as we possibly can to ensure that if this is a priority, we need to put the same level of emergency kind of urgency on an issue as we have seen just over the last couple of years. If we put our minds and focus to doing something, we can get things done.
See, that's what's up, brother. And we're coming up on an hour. How are you good on time or no? I don't.
I'm good. I have about 10 more minutes the most.
All right, so we could do that. So I wanted to read this on Brother Doug real quick, and then I'll turn it over to you. Brother Doug, like, I don't agree with UBI, but if the predictions are correct for 94% of the labor force will be replaced by automation by 2030, I see it will be necessary. And that's another thing too, people. When I say these things, I'm not saying it because I'm team blue or I'm team red, whatever. I'm just looking at the facts. Like, we got to do something. If we
These are
don't do,
generational issues too. Let's
yes,
be
go ahead.
really real. We were raised to, hey man, you got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. You got to go out there and get it. You got to work hard and make something of yourself. And I still, instill that in my sons today, right? Nothing's gonna come free or easy for you, but at the same time, the challenges today are nothing like, you know, um, what the economy today is much different than what it was uh, 10 years ago, let alone 25 years ago when we were growing up.
Absolutely. The battlefield, so to speak, has changed drastically. I mean, you just look at how the world has changed just with Instagram, social media,
Mhm.
completely changes the way we do business. And I know I promised you, bro. I wanted to give you this last few minutes. We have the last 10 minutes or so to talk about why you want to be a state assembly member in what people call one of the craziest states when it comes to politics in the union. Why would you want to put yourself through that? I'll support you 100%. You know I'm down. But go ahead and tell us why you're trying to do this, brother.
Well, Don, thank you so much, man. It has been a real pleasure to even just have this conversation. These are phone conversations that Don and I have. When we get a chance to catch up. So running for public office, being an elected official, it's something that I don't have to do. I do it because I care. I do it because I really feel like I have an experience. I have invested a lot of time and uh, sweat equity into making my community a better place. Running for the state assembly allows me to expand my sphere and influence to not only benefit my community, but obviously an assembly district, but the people of the state of California. I have invested most of my adult life as a representative for others. I've invested time, gone to school, but I've been a union rep for over 30 years, representing the interests of working families. I've been involved in my community for close to almost as many years, and I've been on the city council in one of the largest cities in one of the largest states for the last 10 years. I think I have a unique perspective and experience that I bring to the table that is really necessary in Sacramento today. The the um, the state of our state is really uncertain. We have record surpluses, we have record budgets, but we have enormous challenges, and I really think the major challenges that our city faces and our state faces um, is really leadership. Somebody and individuals willing to stand up to do the right things, challenge systems, challenge um, failed policies, and fix our state. That's what I want to do, and that's why I'm a candidate for state assembly. I'm bringing a common sense approach to governance, the same common sense approach that I've had as a city council member. I want to take that to the state of California and be a voice for better government and a better state of California.
All right, man. That was a good stump speech right there, bro. For like I said, in the replay, people are gonna get to see this. Now, I do want to ask you one thing, and I don't know if you want to talk about this, but a few minutes ago, before the show, we were on the phone, and I brought up what I was talking about with, you know, the family court system, bro. Did you want to touch on that at all, or do you want to leave that for another episode?
Well, that's a long conversation. I will just say that I value families. I think healthier children come from families that provide love and care and consistency and balance for them, right? And I think that's very very important. I think fathers, as a father of three boys, we talked about two of my sons, but also of a stepson who's 31 years old. I think my role has been important. I know what my father meant to me, being in the household, but also, giving me a a model to work to model after. Right. I saw my dad go to work every day. It was important, and he was a provider. Today's family may not look the same, uh, but I think we all have a responsibility to be involved in our families, and I would certainly be an advocate in Sacramento for greater parental involvement, especially for fathers.
All right.
You
I
can't
take
replace mom. You cannot replace mom. By the way,
and and no- and no one's
nobody's
saying that.
trying to replace mom, but
And no one is saying that you can't
right,
replace mom. But we need to stop the narrative that's out there that says that you can't replace dad. I don't. I think that's wrong.
right.
I think both parents are irreplaceable. That's my personal opinion.
And that's something that we agree on. We want kids to grow up in healthy environments. Again, with parents that love them, and if parents can't be together, the parents need to be both parents need to be involved with the children that they have brought into this world,
Absolutely.
if possible, right? And we have a lot of kids out there that lack both, right? And I think they need a lot of attention as well. And so I will be putting a lot of attention to, helping foster children throughout our state, and improve outcomes for them, because we know that there are correlations um, to a lot of challenging outcomes for those who don't have supportive systems and individuals in their lives.
Wow, bro. Look at that. That's the only time I get political answers from my brother. When it's just me and him drinking or having a cognac or a scotch, the conversation is a little bit different, y'all. Just keeping it 100. Keeping it 100. You know what I mean? But it's the substance is the same. You know what I mean? And bro, thank you so much. My last question for you is this. Should election day be a holiday? Maybe paid half day off or a whole day off or something like that? National holiday.
Well, I just was on the ballot Tuesday, right? And our voter turnout is expected to be somewhere around 17%. And that's sad. There's no reason why we've eliminated almost every excuse for people to vote, not to vote. We're mail-in ballots. I think mail-in ballots, that there needs to be a lot more education or emphasis on voting. And you had a lot of people who never mailed in their ballot before, who got ballots, mail-in ballots. And so my theory is a whole lot of those individuals who got those mail-in ballots, particularly those who were not really engaged in the political process or watching, elections, they probably threw those ballots away, right? Number one. And then you had like a month or 6 weeks to turn those ballots in, and then you had a 10-day voting centers. We opened up hundreds of voting centers throughout the county. I know dozens were in my city, and we still had very low participation. I do think, I do think that we already have in California, and particularly for most public sector employees, they allowed a couple of hours off to go vote, right? But I do think there is value to just shutting everything down. There's so many distractions in our society today, and you're competing when you're talking about an election. You want everybody's attention. You want to be able to have honest engagement. You want folks to be able to participate in the democratic process. But there are a lot of challenges. People have to work. People come home, and their favorite TV show is on, or the Warriors, and the it could be a basketball game going on, or a baseball game, or a Stanley Cup. There's so many distractions. I don't know that we shut down our economy and shut down everything to vote, but we do need to put more emphasis on people participating in the process.
That's what's up. And Miss Globe Girl said there's always an excuse. If it becomes a holiday, folks will say they're too busy barbecuing and can't go vote. we'll leave it there. You know what I mean? Yo, Al, brother Al, thank you so much for coming, man. So where can people find you?
Well, if you want to get more involved in my campaign, I invite you to do that at Al Austin for Assembly. That's FOR Assembly.org. And follow me on Instagram, Al Austin for LB, and I'm on Twitter as well.
Well,
The
there it
Al,
is. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the Al Austin.
There it is right there. So there you have it. There's, you know what I mean? This is why I have this platform. I want to talk to everyone I can talk to. Next week, I'll probably have some hood dudes on here. We're going to talk about street politics. Right today, we're talking about the political process. So thank y'all for hanging out with me. This right here is my man, Al Austin. Was it District 8 Long Beach City Council member and soon to be, fingers crossed, state assembly member out there in California. I am Don DL Saint. This is the DL Saint I Really Want to Know podcast. I'll talk to y'all later. Don't go nowhere out. Peace.
Deuces.